I highly doubt anyone's going to put in the effort to really go find the video from the previous year. Because I don't really name it the answers to the test. Like, that's not.
No.
Yeah. So, number 1 was growth by 3 did not matter where you started. Right? Growth by 3 did not matter how many you started with. Could have started with 3, could have started with 1, could have started with none. Number 2, growth by 1 was the critical piece. Number 3, and actually this was Noah, but he just left us. So plus 4 is the constant because figure 0 had 4 tiles. 2x means that the number of tiles is equal to the figure number times 2. Now here's one concerning thing. If you said that 2x is the figure number, you're like halfway right. What is the figure number?
The X.
The x. 2x includes the coefficient or the multiplier. So like, and I think that was just like, somebody just wrote it wrong. Like, I think they probably know it. Like, if I ask them, hey, what's the figure number? They'd probably say, oh, x is the figure number. 2 is what it grows by. But be careful. Like, that's just kind of a misspeak, right? Like, if you misspeak there. So I love what Noah had written about the growth being 2. We do 2 times the figure number. Yeah, and then he gave an example for figure 1. Sorry, talking at the same time as me doesn't work. What?
I wrote like an actual letter. Yeah, me too. I said, Dear Renata.
I think you mean like this?
Yep.
Actual letter?
Yeah, I did too.
Yeah.
I said sincerely.
The reason the equation and the tile pattern are connected is because if you look at figure 0, you will see that 0 has 4 tiles, so mx plus b is that's like an exemplary response, right?
Yeah.
That is not from this class, actually. It's from the next class.
Long, but I hope this finds you well.
A lot of us had issues on this one. Be honest with yourself. Guys, I don't really want to catch you on a lie on this. Just be honest with your grading. Oh my gosh. And when I did that snapshot, I anticipated that Soph would freak out when hers was on the board. So, remember.
I can't tell if I got my
The 4 tells us the growth of the line. So Soph indicated that's our 4x line. The negative 3 tells you the y-intercept, or that like origin point. So Soph showed that we have a negative 3 there. Just, I wanted to put multiple of your guys' work on each one. So if we look at like negative 5x minus 1, we start at the negative 1, and then our slope tells us negative 5x, meaning we go down 5 over 1. Right? Or if our slope was positive 4, we went up 4 over 1. Right? Or if our slope was negative, I think it was negative 2 in the other one. Yeah, negative 2, down 2 over 1, down 2 over 1, down 2 over 1. If you made all of your lines have a positive slope, that is not correct.
Yep.
2 of them had negatives. If you did not continue your lines, like grab a ruler and just, like don't just make a tiny little line segment. These equations mean the lines actually go on forever. Technically, we should have arrows on the end of our lines. Give me the pen. Arrows should be on the end of each of these lines, technically. Because they're continuous until we say otherwise. Which you guys have started to learn on Desmos, how we can say otherwise. How we can restrict things. Well, started. It's not supposed to be formalized yet. In like the marble slides activities, you're starting to learn about this. Yes, Bryson.
What I did is like I graphed them separately by making different.
Oh yeah, that's fine too. That just uses a bit more
That
paper.
was okay.
No, that's as long as your slope was right, your y-intercepts were right. So check those. Any questions on that graphing one? Sorry, I realized maybe I went a little bit too quick. Check your y-intercepts. Check your slopes. If it's not right, it's okay. Like, just be honest with yourself. And write it on that paper. So we should have stuff written for 1, 2, 3, and 4 that are just like check marks.
Alright. Yes.
I messed up my first one with this.
Alright, and 5, guys, everyone got so intimidated by this problem.
Yeah. It was very scary.
You had year to year and people to people. That part of the problem was all that you needed. And I forget whose work this is that shows what we do is we go year to year, and we say, well, that was actually 14 years in the data that they gave us. The people to people, that's actually 900 people changing. So our growth of 900 people divided by 14 years, they show that right here. That's how we get 64.3. That's our slope. That's our people per year.
Yes.
Or 64 or 65 if you rounded. And then if we're saying that x equals 0 is 1990, what's our y-intercept? Well, that's 3100. Right? If that's when x equals 0, that is our y-intercept. So our equation becomes, I forget if they had the equation on this one. I think they have it on this one. 64.3x plus 3100. So that's a 3100. It's a little hard to see their 1 there. Our growth was 64.3 each year. We started at 3100. Questions? What? Well, it's because rounding will make a difference. So if you're close to 4386 but not exactly there, that has to do with rounding.
I had 43.
I made a graph.
It's rounding.
Oh,
Yeah,
all
it's all rounding.
I thought it said
I made a graph, and I got 4,390.
I mean, graphs help too. Like they're one of our tools, right? Questions on this one? If you got it wrong, that's fine. We're gonna keep doing more problems like this. I think there was one on our homework like last night, or maybe there was like one upcoming. Like I've seen one recently.
So
Colin?
I got 4,385.
You're fine. That's guys. If you're within 10 of that answer, like it's rounding, right? Some of you rounded, some of you didn't. Some of you keep 10 decimal places because you're crazy in a good way.
You just completely have no idea what to do, so you make a graph.
Some of you use the ants button on your calculator.
Is that what you did, Nick?
Yes. The ants.
Man, I've been walking around the house singing the Pink Panther song.
I mean, so
I
do
forget that
I.
song.
No, because we brought one of our outside plants inside, and ever since then we've been having like an issue with ants. So you know, I walk around and I go, dead ant, 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 yeah, dead ant.
Our ants eat ourselves.
All right, toothpicks, not tiles. Toothpicks, not tiles.
Jeez.
So like,
Fix that tile!
because guys, I like.
I got that one right
What?
too.
I like that you actually seemed excited for
I
a
got
moment. What do you want to know if it's right? 32.
I got
32. I can't. This kind of looks like your handwriting, Zach. I can't remember if that's yours or not.
But so far, I've had everything as a chat.
So, guys,
Watch that.
hey, hold up. We've been using tiles for all of these growth patterns that we do, but Val, I'm talking. But that is not the only thing we use in math. You'd be silly to think all of math revolves around little bitty tiles.
No.
Right? So we have to start getting away from just using those tiles, and that's why we did one now that kind of still looks like tiles, but we're actually counting the lines. So I love these two different techniques of like, let me break apart the toothpicks, or let me like kind of tick mark them so I can count them as I go and know that I've counted all of them. Either way, we see a growth of 5, which would get us to 32 in figure 4. All right, questions? So,
Yeah. It says my contacts were so dry that they fell out. Can I go call my mom and ask her to bring my glasses?
sure. I mean, we only have an hour of school left, but we have a little bit more than an hour. Yeah, absolutely. Like, yeah, you're welcome to.
Use Leo's. He doesn't need him. He has echolocation.
Hey, Soph, go to the Phoenix office. Hey, Chrissy.
Caw.
Soph is on her way down to call home because she needs her glasses brought because her contacts fell out. So I didn't know if you just wanted to pull up that number or be ready or whatever. Thank you.
Roger.
All right, so one issue here, and this is what, like, I'm trying to show you guys what, like, grading is kind of tough, especially because, like, I assume you guys know what you're doing. Like, I assume until I see otherwise, right? Like, because you're all pretty darn smart. So this was all good until I realized, wait a minute, that shouldn't end there. Oh, that shouldn't be 1. We always start at 0, right? So be careful. Your x and y axes always need to start at 0. If we had 0, 10, we're also going to end up having 10, 0. So guys, up here, this was not quite right. I just wanted to point this out as like, watch out. Small mistakes like this, they'll get you. That was not quite right. This one is. Right? Our first pattern starts at 10. And this was the one that showed us this, right? So figure 5. So what we would have written in is like here we have 5. So now we could assume that's 6, 8, 9, 10. We're losing 1 each time.
Wow. That was
Questions?
incredible.
Make sure you had all 4 representations. If you didn't answer it completely.
Yes.
So the table, like finishing the table, right? The tile pattern, like showing it visually, the equation, and the graph.
My
So-
brain thought I
Hey, it's okay. That doesn't mean you're wrong. You're just not totally right, right? If you didn't answer the whole question, you're not wrong. You're just not totally right. In 8, I loved this response, and actually I got so like into it that I didn't even copy another response over. I used the -8 and 2 to figure this out because 1 times 5, 5 minus 3, well, -1 times 5. So they thought out loud, right? Or like thought on the paper. And that was why I gave you those 2 tiles of -1, -8, because that is here. And then 1, 2 is there. And if I do the growth triangle for between them, right, we hit at -3. So we can see our growth. Now be careful of the scaling, guys. The scaling is not the same. That's also why I tried to point out, like, hey, that point is at -1, -8. Oh crap, we got to -8 already. Like, this scaling's different. So our slope, we go like here to here, or here to there. Like we can just do the math. That's actually probably easier. What's your change easier? Your change in y, 10. Your change in x, 2. What's 10 divided by 2?
5.
Questions on that? We get 5x minus 3. Why did I write 0 what?
-3 plus 5.
Delta y. Delta. Sorry. Thank you for asking about that. Delta y.
Something wrong.
Yeah, I was what I did here.
No, I'm right.
Like, I actually did wait for the same for my kids.
So you have no clue what you did. How would you think that I would have a clue what you did? Well, that's not actually 5. That's actually 10. If you didn't pay attention to the scaling being 2. So it's 5 boxes, but it's actually a distance of 10. That's what got you. Does that make sense? So then I would just like ignore what you had written the first time. Remember that what's in front of your x is going to be your slope. What is the constant is your y intercept. See there is going to be negative. Yeah. So, I mean, on your paper, you can write totally forgot to do. Moving on to number 9. Every time the x goes up by 1, the y goes up by 4. I would have loved a comma or a period or something to split that thought, but it's a brilliant thought. The rule is 4x plus 2. All the y values are even. They kind of justified it a couple ways around. Another way to think through it, right, they showed a loss of 12, a loss of 3. So they did 12 divided by 3.
Bless you.
Ooh, surprised I didn't go for 3. Normally shoot for 3. Ha, Bryson?
When it said write down everything that you know, I made figures, a table, and I wrote the rules.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's an easy. Because in my brain, I was like, wait, should I write words or should I make?
hey man, whatever you want, right?
Yeah.
Like whatever you want. Adele? So, yeah, I was about to ask, wait a minute, this says 4x plus 2 and this says 4x plus 6, so which one of these is right, or are neither of them right? How can we get back to the y-intercept? You want to talk me through it, Nick?
I think that the person who says that 4x, that like the rule is 4x plus 6 is incorrect because you have 1 as x instead of 0. The value at 1x for y is not the y-intercept.
Yeah, the y-intercept is actually the y value at 0. Right? So this is actually 2, making this correct. But guys, that was the trap door, right? Because they showed us 1, 6, but that's not your y-intercept. This is not correct. Plus 2 is correct. So like if you only got the y-intercept wrong, like that's the note you would make for yourself. Right? You're making notes on your self-grade paper. You're making notes on your self-grade paper, or you're just making check marks, right? So?
Do you think you could really quickly go back to 7 so I can see if I got the 1 part right?
I think I could. I think I would. So it's 5x minus 3 is the rule that we end up getting. If you got the slope wrong, it's probably because the scale of the y-axis. The scale of the y-axis is by 2s.
I meant 7.
Oh, 7. No, you did say 7. I just forgot. Fill in the table, 10, 9, 8. Right, we're dropping by 1. Our rule is 10 minus x. We would have drawn...
Negative 1x plus 10.
Yep, that's the same thing.
Okay, yeah,
Yep.
thanks.
Yes, no, yes, no. For number 10,
I would no,
the
yes,
thing for
no,
9.
No, how did
What do you mean the thing? The rule? 4x plus 2. Yeah, 4x plus 2 was that rule.
4x plus 17.
Check your 10. If you did not have yes, no, check your work. Like, look at your work right now, and if you don't have any work to look at, that's the problem. So you don't write your work down.
Can you scroll
throw
down?
this one up?
There is another solution I can show you guys, like somebody else's work.
No, I literally went no, yes, no, no.
No, it's not me.
I
heard
only
you
got
say I
one
don't
word.
understand.
I did
Huh? Yeah,
I
work
did
is
friggin'
that?
yep.
That would make sense.
I don't know how I got it wrong. Yes, because I don't understand.
Well, good thing you don't have to figure that out right this moment. In 11,
I literally said a brain fart.
you have 15, 21, 28. It's growing by 1 more each time than it had before. So it grew by 2, grew by 3, grew by 4, grew by 5. This is actually, I mean, obviously you guys can say, well, that's not linear because it's not growing by the same thing. If something is speeding up how it grows, any idea what that... Yeah, what Mason just did, that graph would like be increasing, like getting steeper and steeper and steeper.
Still technically going up by the same rate.
It's like an airplane.
Not the same. Be careful when you say technically and then you lie.
Okay,
It's like a rocket ship. Like,
I worded
Do you mean the increase is increasing consistently?
Yeah.
So, what Zach is trying to say, I'm going to bail you out, man, is this is plus 2, plus 3, plus 4. So if I start writing those things down, I would say 2, 3, 4. But the increase of the increase, 1, 1, 1. And this is actually how we identify what type of graph this is. But you don't know that type of graph yet. So we're not going to spend any more time on that. But yeah, you're right. That's something we notice when the increasing amount is consistent. Now, if that wasn't consistent, we would go again, even deeper, and look for, is that now consistent? I know, math is complicated. Bryson, what's up?
I just want to know. So, with like all checks being a P,
Yeah, I mean, normally it's at least a mastery, right? Obviously.
Please pardon the interruption. Just a reminder that tomorrow is the payment due date for the $10 for the turkey bowl. in the $10
Gobble, gobble.
for the Phoenix Turkey Roll is due by tomorrow. That can either be paid online through My Payments Plus, or we can accept check or cash in the Phoenix office. Thank you.
Everyone knows this.
I will accept cash or check in my room, but it won't get you any bowling. Oh, just get me cash.
Can you get Dum Dum?
I mean, I don't have any right now because I gave them all out at trick or treat. I need to go buy candy. All right, so your top row in figure 6 should have 7. The height of the whole thing should be 8. And if you notice, if you grab the top square and move it down into here, figure 3 is really a 3x4. Figure 4 is really a 4x5. Figure 5 would really be a 5x6. And figure 6 would really be a 6x7. So figure 10 would really be a 10x11, which is how we get 110 tiles in figure 10. If you wrote 111, you just goofed up the math. A couple people wrote 111. I always find it interesting when a wrong answer happens multiple times. So,
I just found out where I met
there are double the figure amount of the tiles for the top layer and the furthest. Well, that's not quite right. Double the figure amount? Yeah, they kind of phrased that wrong. 1 less than the amount of columns. So, really, your explain doesn't need to match there. Like, this is not what you're looking at for right versus wrong. Read your explanation, right? Read what you wrote. Ask yourself, does it make sense? In my mind, what made sense was move this down around and make a rectangle. You might have explained it differently, though, and it probably still makes sense. Go ahead.
I found out that it goes up by a number, but the number increases by 2 each time.
Yeah.
You would add 6, add 8, add 10, add 12, 14.
Does that actually hold up, though, as you go further?
I don't know.
Well, you got to test it. Otherwise, we can't use it.
I know that I got 110
Nick?
for figure 10. So
For me, I find it interesting because as I went on with the problem, I realized that my algorithm, my equation for it, which was y equals x squared plus x, wasn't actually it wasn't the only way to do it because
Yeah, but it-
do x times x plus 1.
Yeah, it did. All of those are actually the same. They're equivalent expressions. They just look different.
Yeah, it's. I just feel like the rectangle. If you're visualizing it like a rectangle, x times x plus 1 is probably a better
Yeah.
one.
Yep. X times x plus 1. All right. Isabel made $5 an hour.
Wait, does it? Wait. So
And
would it be an x if I explained it wrong, but I got the right number?
I mean, that's where grading's tough,
For some
right?
reason, I had a regular. It's plus 11 every time, and that's how I got 110.
I mean, it's up to you, right? At the end, you're going to say what grade you think you deserve. Isabel earns more. $40 in 8 hours is $5 an hour. I do not know if I would watch small children for that little.
Yeah, and you get $40 for 8 hours.
Right? And who wants to babysit for 8 hours?
That's not even enough to buy
Hey, friends, to make sure that we're going to have time, let's look at 14 because 13 was smaller. 14 is increasing by 1.5 each year. Meaning, when it was planted, quote unquote, it had a negative starting point, which, yeah, it's like it didn't exist yet. Right? Like the tree, when it is 0 days old, is a seed. There is no tree. So we could fill in our table like that. We could write our equation like that. All right, 1.5x plus a negative half. You could also flip that around and say a negative half plus 1.5x. We get 74.5 or 147, but they really should have labeled those. So we'll look at another example. 74.5 inches and 147 years, right? Because if we don't label our numbers, how do we know what we're talking about? Well, that's why we are going over this together. Guys, so 2 things. One, exactly what Soph is experiencing of like, ooh, what did I do about when we learn. Like, when we do something wrong and when we go back and figure out what we did, that's more important. But the other piece is I wanted to respect your time, and we're close to the end of chapter 5. I needed to get these back to you. And I have PTSA and parent forum tonight. Like, realistically, I don't have time to get these graded. I normally try to grade them on my own and like write down all the data and stuff. So once you get done with the self-grade feedback form thing, you're gonna give those back to me like at the end of class. You're not gonna correct anything yet. I'm probably gonna make a separate progressing to mastery, just a little follow-up assignment based off what a lot of us missed. Which already looking through to take these snapshots, I know what people missed because I looked at everyone's tests. I just didn't write on them. Zach?
If I got like 14, that was 4 parts. If I got 1 part wrong, should I still mark it wrong?
I mean, you could just write, I got part whatever wrong. Like, so you could say 3 out of 4 or something in the little, like, beside it. Like, you're giving yourself feedback, right? What is the feedback you would say? And now put yourself in my shoes. It's pretty difficult to grade things at Phoenix, right? Like, because it's not really like, well, it's not totally wrong, right? But it wasn't totally right. It's tough. Right? It's whatever you want to tell yourself.
It was more right than wrong.
There you go. Well, and this is why, like, what would be the best? This would be like in my magical fantasy world, if I could grade each of your tests just with you and like talk about each problem. That would be the best.
That would be great.
There is definitely no time to do that.
There's no thing called a
You would not have enough time.
Yeah, you guys want to do that over summer break?
Yeah.
No solution. No solution. And for 16, x equals 1.
Finally got 4.
I got 5 people from the master.
I only got 1.
I'm pretty sure.
Hey, take the last 5 minutes. We don't need to talk to each other. You're going to decide what grade you think you deserve. Give a little rationale, like explain why you think you deserve that grade. You're going to staple that on front of the test with 1 staple. With a 1 staple. And then you're going to turn it back in. Okay, in the next 5 to 7 minutes. We got a little bit of time left.